All right, welcome back to the All About RFID series. I'm Kyle Stanford, your RFID Solutions Architect here at RedBeam, and we're here today to talk about RFID tags and what you actually need to know about them. So we're going to start simple and just explain that RFID tags are simply a chip and antenna. And because they just look so simple, they're often forgot about in a lot of deployments until the end. They become an afterthought, and they become the thing that can wreck a deployment of RFID. So again, a chip and an antenna. Let's pop up some slides. So you have a chip, that is the actual smarts of the RFID tag, right? And then you have an antenna around it. As we talked about 2 videos ago, that antenna is used to absorb energy, turn on that chip, and then that chip beacons back out that same antenna with its unique ID. Because of that, choosing the right tag is important because you need a particular chip and a particular antenna, and it's not just about that, it's about how it's all packaged too. So RFID tags come in a lot of different packaging. The one I've been holding up is simply a paper tag. This is a paper inlay that you may see on something simple like retail clothing at a retail store, right? On the actual price tag. On a UPS label, a little bit bigger version of this, but it's just going to be a paper tag that's just embedded and inlay into that label. These are your cheapest and simplest ones. They're going to work great on things like cardboard and paper and cloth and different things, right? They are not going to work great when you get up to something like a forklift, right? So for those, you need different packaging, right? So there's the same type of tag inside of this, but this is a hardened tag. These hardened tags come in all different variants, right? They allow these to be kicked, hit, ran over by a forklift, beat with a hammer, and usually they're still going to survive. They're going to give you UV resistance. They're going to give you temperature resistance, a whole bunch of different things that you may need for your particular project. So you got your paper inlays and your hardened inlays. Now we're going to take it one step further, and all of the tags are susceptible to the different material that they are on. And RF really hates metal and water. Simply stated, doesn't get along. The UHF frequency around 900 megahertz will reflect off of metal. It'll just bounce off of it. Because of that, if you take this paper tag and you put it on a metal machine, this antenna is going to be touching that machine. Now all of a sudden that whole machine is an antenna. So that little tiny chip and this little tiny antenna are never going to absorb enough of that RFID energy to actually turn on this chip, and you might as well not be tracking it all. It becomes a completely useless project at that point. So there is a variant of tag called an on-metal. You can still get them printable. This tag is actually on metal too, this hardened tag, but you can get on-metal tags printable. They're going to have something like a foam backing, right? It's going to elevate that tag just a little bit off of the whatever you're tracking and allow you to still be able to read that tag. On-metal tags come in all different shapes and sizes. Again, hardened, on a roll, printable, different things like that. But thinking about what you're actually tagging is very important. Water, like I stated, is another problem. So something like a wine bottle, you may have a hard time if you just put the tag directly on the wine bottle, but you may be able to do something like a flag tag hanging off the stem of the bottle where there's maybe not as much liquid and it's sitting upright and it has some separation between it and the bottle. It's something we ran into in the past. So choose the right tag. Choose the right tag. If you aren't sure, there are so many tags out there. Find a vendor like RedBeam, shameless promotion, but find a vendor that has somebody that knows something about this, and they will be able to throw a few tags that they've used in similar projects. There are places out there that have done studies on tags, especially for the retail environment, that have already picked out inlays that work with retail clothing, that work with laptops and electronics and different things like that. So reference that material, find a good vendor, and find the right tag for your solution. So what does that mean? That means surface type, like we talked about. Plastic, metal, wood, it's going to be a different tag, right? Flat or curved. This tag is not going to work on a curved surface, right? So you may need an on-metal one that you can actually stick around it. Indoor or outdoor. Again, this tag printed the wrong way. I'm going to have a human readable barcode on it, and in 6 months you won't be able to read it anymore because the UV rays are going to destroy it. Range is a big one. So this little tiny tag is not going to have the same range as this big tag. Why? Because the antenna on this one is a lot bigger, so it can absorb that energy and it can beacon back out louder, right? So range is determined by the antenna. And on top of that, the antenna type within it, some antennas are designed better to work near metal, right? Even though they're actual on metal tags, but there's certain tags that are made to maybe go on like a battery that has plastic, but it's near metal, right? So it's accounting for that. And then you have your harshness environment, right? So whether it's UV like we already talked about, or just temperature. We've had tags that we have to get up into the 400-degree range for different things that go through like blast furnaces and things like that. And then the least important to me usually is the chip, but it can be the most important to your project. So again, that little chip has some limitations within it. Storage size is one of the things. If you have a really long, unique ID that you want to put on this, something that's like 48 characters, every tag will not work for you. And you need to understand which tags have a storage capacity that can take your unique ID. So the last thing I'll say is we work with a lot of big tag manufacturers. Here's a slide of just some of the tag manufacturers that we've worked with. These are big names. These are names that are going to produce these tags, produce them for a long time, and we're going to be able to obtain them. Obviously, we work with Zebra a lot. Zebra doesn't make a tag for everything in the world, so we do have to work with other manufacturers. What we don't work with is no-name tag brands that you've never heard of that may not still be producing that tag in 6 months, because we want a project that is not just going to work right now, but that is going to work in 6 months. If you go to an RFID convention, you will see about 1/3 of the convention is tag manufacturers that you've never heard of that are touting on their latest tag. Great, good for them. They're fun to play with. I use them in testing all the time. But what I won't do is take somebody that I don't know if they're going to be around tomorrow and sell 10,000 tags to an enterprise, not knowing if I can get them again in 6 months when they need 10,000 more tags. Not knowing what their quality is, the longevity, there's just not any studies on that. Whereas the big Zebras of the world have been doing this and they partner with each other. So first thing I look at when a system isn't acting right is the tag, because the right tag will make me feel like a genius, and the wrong tag means I might as well be running an inventory with a potato. So choose the right tag. Next up, we've got RFID readers. We're going to talk about some fixed and handheld readers, just different types. We will talk a little bit about the models, but we're not going to get too in depth into it. And a spoiler, they're all Zebra. Sorry, not sorry. It's our favorite brand.